Welcome to the Fortcast. I'm Gab, and this is Citizens of Fortitude.
Drop.
She did it.
She did do it.
She did do it.
The energy
One
just,
take.
Yeah, the energy just went to 11. I can never do that.
Listen, I'm a woman of few skills, but I know what I got.
Yeah.
One take.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think that launches right into something that we wanted to talk about, which is Gab has an acting background. Gab is one of our coaches.
Yeah.
She's definitely the most comfortable on camera of anyone that we've had so far. She's way
comfortable on
more
camera.
comfortable than me, and it's making me more comfortable.
And
I feel very confident talking to Gab right now.
yeah, but
I love
that's good.
this.
I like that her confidence is building your
Yeah,
confidence.
she's
Hell
bringing
yeah.
the right energy to
I mean,
the
that's
show.
why I'm here, you know?
Bring in the heat. But you were a professional actor for years.
Yeah,
Tell
I
us about
was.
that.
At
Well-
a young age, correct?
Yeah. I was probably like 11 or 12 when I started. And I think my parents were kind of like, yeah, you can do a play, sure, whatever. And then when they came to see me, they were like, oh my God, she's actually really good at this. And kind of immediately they were like, I took singing lessons, I took dance lessons, I was taking acting classes. And I went to college, I got my degree in theater performance, and I kind of just fell in love with being on camera and doing TV work. And before I knew it, I had agents and I was, booking actual TV shows. And it was sort of like, oh my God, like everything I've ever wanted is actually happening. And I loved it, and I studied the craft, and I was very serious about it. But eventually, like most, young women in the field, I started to like really let it affect how I felt about myself. And I had a job where if one of the other actresses that I was working with lost weight, I had to lose weight. And if she decided that she was going to go on a diet, that meant I had to go on a diet. And before long, I was sort of wrapped up in this like horrible, like, self-esteem issues and like eating disorders and all these things where I was no longer focusing on like my lines or the sides or the audition that I had coming up. And I was just thinking like, I have to be thinner. I have to be smaller. They're not going to book me for this job if I'm not thin enough, if I'm not pretty enough. And
What do you think that is? Do you think that's like needing the praise, or like needing the attention, or needing the wanting, like the goal being like getting, that praise for like being a certain way, doing a certain job?
In
What
terms
do you
of,
think
like,
it is?
for the field or for me in general?
The field and
Or is
and
it
your
real?
experience in it, right? Like,
Yeah.
because it's interesting. Like it's a microcosm of like our human experience, but this is like one way that it manifests like in acting. But I think a lot of people fall into like a similar trap in their career, in their relationships. Doesn't necessarily just pertain to acting, but I think it's like really interesting.
Yeah. I think when you find something that you're good at and people kind of give you that praise, then it becomes like, well, what else? Right? Because it's like, all right, I'm good at this, but like, how do I get better? How do I stay at the top of my game? How do I like continue to be successful? And I think for me, it was like, all right, I could be good at this, but what if I'm not pretty enough? What if I'm not thin enough? Like, how do I hang on to this?
So I keep getting it.
Yeah. It's like that rush of I need this approval. And if I'm, I'll never forget, I had a casting director when I was 19 tell me like, listen, you're great and we love you and I would book you, but you're going to need plastic surgery to fix the dimples on your face.
You were
else
19 years
You're never
old.
going to work. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And that
Wow.
like really stuck with me. And I remember like
you up.
staring in the bathroom mirror, like, well, if I got Botox, maybe I could, and then it becomes like, how do I get them to pick me? What do I have to do differently? Do I have to lose 10 more pounds? Maybe I'll go on the treadmill all day. I mean, I've done that. One time I got into this crazy thing on the subway where I was going up the stairs and I didn't take the escalator, I took the stairs. And at the top, I felt like I wasn't enough. So I went back down and then went back up again. And then I was like, maybe if I do it 2 more times. And then I ended up like kind of missing this audition that I had, because I was so wrapped up in like, I just want to make sure that I look good when I get there. And it was like so drastic and it affected me so much that finally one day I was like, I don't even like this anymore.
When was that? You said maybe it started around like 11, 12. How recent have you like been acting or been in that line of work?
So I stopped when I was probably 24 or 25. And I sort of started with like, I'm just going to take a break for a little while. I'm not happy right now. I'm gonna do something else. I'm just gonna like step back. And that was very quickly when I discovered fitness. And as soon as I discovered that like I could do this for a living, and what I really wanted to do was make other women who maybe weren't feeling good about themselves kind of feel like they were capable of something. I didn't want to be working on being thinner. I didn't want to lose weight. I wanted to like get strong. I wanted to be good at something else. And that's when I was like, I think this is my calling. Like, I think this is what I was put here to do.
Fitness was helping you. You wanted it to help other people too.
Yeah.
Other people that were in similar situations.
Yeah. And that's why once I found that, I was like, I'm never going back.
And what did that look like as far as what type of fitness did you get started into? And then you started coaching and like teaching, correct? So like what kind of like sessions were you running? What kind of stuff were you doing?
So I started out as a personal trainer. And I worked at a Blink Fitness very briefly, just kind of like getting my feet wet. And then once I kind of figured out what I was doing, I opened my own like kind of private training business, and I did in-home training. So I was working with a lot of women who maybe weren't comfortable like going to a gym because they felt self-conscious, which was like the sweet spot for me. So I basically like lived in my car. I drove around I had like 60 different clients all over Long Island. And I was driving like North Shore, South Shore, Nassau, Suffolk. I had no structure. I was just driving around. And I would leave my house at like 5:30 in the morning. I wouldn't get home till like 10 p.m. I ate every meal in my car. It was crazy. And
Hustling.
I loved it. And then eventually it was just like not sustainable, you know? So very quickly thereafter, I got involved in indoor cycling, which was kind of perfect for me because it married this like performative aspect of like making a playlist and, you know, talking to people and kind of storytelling, but it also had a fitness component. And I very quickly kind of ascended up the corporate ladder of a company that I worked for. I did a lot of like hiring and training for them and teaching other instructors the aspect of storytelling that makes a class like that successful. Because it's not just like Pinterest quotes, right? It's like you have to like guide people through a journey and have them leave feeling more confident and stuff like that. And then I did that until the pandemic. And once the pandemic hit, I was like, I miss actual fitness. Like, I don't want to just help people burn calories and tell them a story about like, you know, being confident. Like, I want to actually affect people's lives. Because I think that was missing for a long time.
Like be with them. As people. Because you can't be with them. You can't see them on the other end of the camera.
Yeah, for sure. And even just like helping somebody move from, you know, a 60 kilo deadlift to a 65 kilo deadlift. Like that's so much more tangible. That success is more tangible than like, oh, like, you know what you said in that class really meant a lot to me. And it made me feel like I could do something, you know, better with my life.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Much more objective.
Yeah.
What was your training like at this point? Like you're in your car going to 60 different clients over, you know, short periods of time. Like how were you working out? Like, would you work out with them? Like what was that like?
No, my training was really suffering, honestly. It was right around when I started running. So I was kind of like gearing up for my first marathon. So I was running a bit. I was still teaching indoor cycling like once or twice a week at like a Gold's Gym at that point. That was kind of like my first job in that field. So I was doing that, but I was definitely not prioritizing my own training. And frankly, I think that I was so new as a trainer that I didn't really know the appropriate way to program for myself. Like I was doing a lot of like, do push-ups on this Bosu ball, and then like, you know, let's do 10 squats with dumbbells, and then we'll do 20 jumping jacks. Like I was just throwing things together and seeing what stuck.
I remember like being a personal trainer. I think a big thing that people paid for you back then is just a decisive decision maker.
Yeah.
Like just tell me what to do. And like eventually you realize that these people just want to be like directed.
Yeah.
So I just have to direct them.
And have some company while they train.
Have some company while they do it.
Yeah. And someone who's waiting for them.
Yeah.
So they can't
the
cancel.
accountability, right?
Yep.
That's a big part. I think that part is very real, actually.
Yeah.
You know, that does help people, like, you know, get them to the gym.
What's the highest level of accountability too? Because it's this one person that is relying on you being there, waiting for you there.
Yeah.
The stakes are the highest.
Yeah.
You've paid a lot for that person to be there. So the accountability is the highest, but they're, you know, you're in a bubble sort of with you and the trainer. And that's, you know, we eventually got to this point where like the bubble works against you.
Yeah.
You kind of need to be assimilated into some sort of like group or some sort of community.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the bubble works against you pretty quickly. Just like kind of.
Yeah, it doesn't take much time.
It does not take long.
Well, once you become friendly, it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Because then, you know, you're like you don't want to upset anybody, and it's a friendship, and you know,
Yeah.
give them some slack.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always bring up that example.
They end
of
up doing what they want.
Yeah, you talk about like what Marvel movie you watched that weekend, and
Yeah.
everything else goes by the wayside.
Everybody has a nice time for an hour.
Yeah, and nobody gets.
But the
any better.
training suffers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was inevitable for me for sure. Especially like, I think like people, you get familiar with them and they're like, oh, well, you know, I told you my daughter had this game, so I was up really late last night. So, you know, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that today.
Right.
And you're like, all right,
You hear
yeah.
the whole
that's fine.
sob story.
It's yeah. And I'm relatively susceptible to that, you know,
We all
especially
are.
at that point. I was like, okay, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Which didn't make me any better as a trainer, right? And it certainly didn't make any of my clients any more successful. But it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
So
Tough
what's your
life.
training like now? Tell me
Well-
about what you're into
Now my training is incredible because I train 6 days a week with the best team in the world.
with the squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been in this shape before. I've never been this strong.
You're very strong. I
thank
watched one of
you.
your deadlift videos the other day.
Thank you.
You're moving weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel incredible.
And moving it well, which was not always the case from when we first met Gab.
No, it really wasn't. But you kept me around anyway, so I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
You're welcome.
You did not tell me immediately to leave. Yeah, I mean, I was just saying the other day, like I'm getting ready to train for the Berlin Marathon. This is like very early on in the training, and sometimes the beginning of a marathon training program will feel brutal. And now I'm like, I'm in such good shape. Like these runs feel like nothing, even though I haven't really been consistent for a while. Like what we do here translates to so many other areas of fitness, of life. Like I've never felt more prepared to face absolutely anything.
Now, do you think this is like a factor of the training itself and it's like kind of physical attributes that it's given you, or more of the kind of you've done hard things and now hard things just don't seem necessarily as challenging, or you welcome hard challenges?
I think both.
Okay.
You know, in a way, like physically, yes. I mean, getting up and running 10 miles doesn't feel nearly as hard as it used to physically. But even mentally, it's like, you know, my new favorite thing now for this program is coming in and not knowing what the thought is. Because like whatever someone tells me I have to do, it's like, okay, you know I can do that. And that's really...
It's a skill in itself.
Yeah.
Of being down for whatever.
Yeah.
And like doing it with a straight face, with composure.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, gonna do it.
It's like fitness improv.
Sort of.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with it.
Yeah. Roll with it.
Yeah.
There's no.
And one of the most incredible and quite frankly life-changing things that I got from my time here, and we're approaching a year and a half, by the way, so
Wow.
it's been a while.
18 months.
Yeah, is from you, Kyle, because one of the first things that you ever taught me was not to be emotional about things. Because I used to come in and like I would get so frustrated or angry or whatever about the thought or how I felt during it or how hard it was or why I wasn't as good as everybody else. And once I learned to not be emotional about it, everything changed.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
In letting go of your emotions can show you what you're actually capable of.
Yeah.
Because you realize how much your emotions, you either become reliant on them and need them, or they hold you back and limit you.
Yeah.
And when you can just execute.
Yeah. And it's so interesting too,
You're
because
quite capable,
as
yeah.
a trained actor, you are like, your emotions drive everything.
Right.
And so for me to unlearn that and kind of peel back those layers and get to a place where I was not using emotion at all, it was really freeing.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
It works the opposite way
Yeah.
than you would think. And we're told, I think in society, that like emotions are good, and emotions are good. They are what makes us human. But it's very useful to be able to control them.
Yeah.
You know, and in order to control them, sometimes you need to like put them aside and say like, no, I'm in charge. You can have your say later in other areas and other times. But right now, I'm going to take the driver's seat and I'm just going to execute and do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fine line between like something being emotional and something being meaningful. And I think you have to ride that line, because I think the training or whatever it is we're talking about has to be meaningful, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your emotions have to get the better of you to make it meaningful, right?
Yeah.
It just kind of becomes, we talk about this all the time, just becomes part of who you are. And once you kind of realize and accept that, then the emotions are, I mean, you could rely on them sometimes, but for the most time, they should take a back seat. And I think you've kind of gotten to that place.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's incredible too, because like now in my regular day-to-day life, like if something happens, if there's an obstacle or a problem or something doesn't go the way I want it to, I don't get emotional. I just find a solution. And sometimes it sucks. And sometimes I have to do things I don't want to do. And sometimes it's hard conversations. Sometimes it's like, being honest in a position where maybe in a previous life I would have like been a little bit less upfront. But it's just handling things. And now I know, like, no matter how difficult it's going to get, I am capable. And that changed everything for me, you know?
Yeah, that confidence underlies everything that we do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like, I didn't have that. I thought I had that before here.
Yeah.
And I think I talked about it. And I think I presented as someone who had it. But what I learned here was that, like, when push comes to shove and you actually have to put your money where your mouth is, like, I've got it.
Yes.
You know?
And when you do perform every day at a really high level, you don't have to prove it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's in you.
Yeah.
So you don't have to espouse it or show it. Like it just becomes who you are.
Yeah. And in my past life, the thing that really drove me to a place that I never want to go back to was the idea that I had to prove it every day. And now I know I don't have to prove it. And sometimes I like to prove it. And,
Knowing
it can
that
be
you
fun.
can. Yeah.
But
It's not to say that like you never go out and like just see what you can do if you go all out, see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah.
It's knowing that like I could if I wanted to.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's good to have in your back pocket, but it's not necessary.
But you don't have to do it every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. This is a great example. And, I chirp about this all the time too. Is like the lessons that you learn in the gym, extending past the four walls and really permeating the rest of your life. And that's like the next level stuff. We always talk about like the training and the physical nature of it and the community and all those things are very important and why people come to us. But when you can really take that skill set and bring it to like the outside part of your life and manage anxiety and, change your outlook on things and not be so emotional and be a little bit more action oriented or whatever it is that you're searching for, that's like the next level thing. And that's kind of what, gets me excited about watching people train and being part of their training life.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I've gotten from being this serious about training is the bravery aspect. Like I feel brave.
It's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
You're
the
like,
best.
show me an event. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
might not be the best, but I will be able to handle it.
Yeah. It's life-changing, Like bravery is
yeah.
highly underrated.
It opens up so many options
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah. And even like, I have this outlook in my life now where like, if this doesn't go the way I want it to, I'm going to be okay. I'll figure it out.
Nice.
Because you're
Great.
strong enough to handle it.
Yeah.
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 And to deal.
So like, bring it on,
Yeah.
Amazing.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately, of this idea of working toward never being bothered.
Oh, yeah. That's a goal. I'll put that on
like
the goal
as a
list.
goal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but I do think it's something you can work toward.
Yeah.
If you keep your eye on it and if you train it, that life can throw things at you. And I think part of that, you have to give yourself grace and say like,
Yeah.
I will be bothered, but I'm going to work toward over time being better and better at being less and less affected
Yeah.
by things that the world throws at me. And who knows what you'll be capable of after a lifetime of practicing it. You might get to a point where you're just in the flow with life.
Yeah.
Whatever, you become part of it, and like you're not bothered because it's how you live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched this like, I don't know, it's like an Instagram or TikTok video, like one of these motivational things. I wish I remember who the guy was, but it was one guy interviewing another guy who like, this was his whole thing, was like, I don't let things like this bother me. I don't get emotional about things. And the guy was like, what, like, let's say somebody cuts you off in the car. Like, you don't get mad at that guy? He's like, no. He's like, would I get mad at the wind blowing by me? When
It's
it
just
does
what is
so,
happening.
he's just like, I just accept it. And I was like, that's some ninja level shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, I don't know if I believe this guy, but I like what he's selling right here.
What's a way of looking at the world? It's a way of looking at what is happening,
Yeah.
and saying like things just happen. That's part of how it all works, and you're part of it.
Yeah.
And you don't understand where it's all going to lead to. It might work exactly in the direction that you want to, but you wouldn't know unless you go with it. So just give it a shot. Go with it.
Yeah.
Assume it's working out for your best interests.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to establish that resiliency first.
Oh,
You know, that's like, you can't be someone who like, is just like, all right, now I'm just going to be someone who's not affected by things. I think you have to really face a lot of stuff.
There's strength in the pause between like when something happens that you wait and you don't like immediately jump and react to it, but that you have to be strong enough to like watch yourself, watch what is happening, and breathe through it and not react to it.
Self-awareness too.
Yeah.
It was so hard to do.
Yeah.
But
it really takes practice.
But I mean, it feels like something that's worthy to pursue.
Yeah. Yeah. And isn't it funny how it all can start right here?
Yeah.
You know,
because you do it moment by moment, every training session.
Yep.
Every single time I train still, I am bothered by all types of things that are going to happen from the warm up. Often I will be thinking, this is so stupid. I don't want to do this stupid warm up. I'm going to skip through. I designed the warm up and put it into the program, but I'm thinking like in my head, I'm like, it's stupid. I just don't want to do it. This is dumb. And then you kind of get through it and you're like, okay, I actually feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
This thing worked.
Yeah.
God damn it.
And then you like get to some other thing and it's like, I don't want to do this movement. My shoulder kind of hurts. This is kind of dumb. And then like you do it, you give up and you accept it and you do it and you get to the other end. And you're like, oh, I'm glad I did that. I wouldn't have done it otherwise.
Yeah.
You know, but it's this never ending practice of exposing yourself to stressors, different types of things that you don't want to do, that your lizard brain is going to resist and reject and really try to fight off and get away from. But once you accept it and you realize that you're totally capable of handling it, it feels way better on the other side. And you're like, I never should have been bothered in the first place.
Yeah. And that's a muscle that you flex, you know what I mean? And that you like train. And it's something that I think we're conditioned to ignore because we don't want to be uncomfortable. And we've kind of developed a society that has no discomfort. Like there's no such thing as being uncomfortable anymore. We're fed, we're warm, like we live in instant gratification. Like we don't really have to do that. But you become such a better version of yourself when you practice that every day.
It feels good, oddly.
Yeah.
Discomfort, when you have it in your life and you get on the other end of it, like you feel like a human.
Yeah.
Like when I'm too comfortable, I don't feel right.
Yeah.
Like I'm not unlocking parts of my humanity. There's the discomfort brings out, I think, the good parts in us.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why people retire for like a week and a half and they're like, fuck this, I'm going back to work or finding something to do. Like, it's just,
or they die.
Right. Or they need a purpose. They need something to push against. You know?
You need some challenge.
Discomfort is an emotion that like actors are always seeking in their roles because there's no such thing as like a perfect character. You know, somebody always has a flaw or a problem or some kind of discomfort that they're grappling with. And I think, like falsified discomfort, like fictitious discomfort is very easy to manifest. But living in real discomfort, like as a real person, because the actor is not uncomfortable, right? The character is uncomfortable. But like to actually experience that is cathartic to a degree that like fictitious discomfort is not.
Do you ever think you'll get back in acting? Like, because talking about all this, fitness, training, this has all fueled you. It's helped you develop this confidence. Like, is it possible that you kind of develop that, you satisfy this like deep part of yourself, and then you're able to like bring that back into the world of acting, like kind of as a more fulfilled person, and then just kind of like able to express yourself better without getting too caught up in the details? You
know, I'm going to be honest with you. I've thought about it a lot, and I think it's something that I might like to do. But when I really think about the logistics, the time that I would spend, I would so much rather be here.
Yeah.
You know,
it's and you know, you kind of said something too, like when you did your cycling sessions, you're able to satisfy the performative with the exercise and the training.
Yeah.
And I think there's still a future of you doing that, like delivering the training with the performative, and like maybe you don't know exactly how it's going to pan out or exactly what that'll look like, but I think you'll scratch that itch through life. I don't think you're done being on camera. Going back to what we said when we first came on, you're too good at it.
Thank you.
You know?
Yeah, I love it, and I would like to find a way to do it and to incorporate it. But I think right now, it would have to be a way that's a little bit more authentic to like what I love and who I am. Something that I say a lot is that I spent the majority of my young adulthood pretending to be somebody else. And I've gotten really, really happy with just being able to be me every day.
That's cool.
That's so nice. So Tybo 2022 DVDs.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hearing.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. For only 3 easy payments of $9.99, you can work out with me in your living room. Yeah.
Coming to you on late night television.
Yep.
It's
Will you
Gabbo.
be the before and after in my infomercial?
Totally.
Okay, good.
Totally. I'll look 20 years younger by the end of it.
I appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
Awesome, Gab. It's been great having you on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys.
We appreciate you so much. We're so lucky to have you at the Fort over the last year and a half, and I'm sure I speak for all the clients and coaches as well. We're just really glad you're here and going through this process with us.
Yeah, thank you, guys. This is my home away from home, so I appreciate it.
Nice.
All right. Well, I'm Kyle.
I'm Dan.
And we are from the Fort, where we take training seriously.
And we do what works.
See you in the next episode.